everybody? Welcome to Left Lane Diesels. Thank you guys so much for tuning back in. I cannot thank you guys enough for watching this video. We have a ton of stuff to get done on the race truck engine. We're going to be setting the heads on. We're also going to be putting the cam in, get the heads torqued down, all of that. So we got a lot of action coming your guys' way. Super excited. We got the new lifters going in and everything. All the parts are laid out all over the place. I'm going to go through step by step some of the best ways of getting the engine back together. We don't have injectors, we don't have the turbo yet, but that's going to be coming later on. Hopefully a couple weeks from now, maybe we can start doing the bigger stuff like that. But as far as the valve train goes, we're going to be hooking the valve train up tonight. So let's get started. We're going to get these heads hooked up and keep moving forward.
All right, guys, so we got the block prepped up and ready to go. What I did was I just ended up using a razor blade and some WD-40 to clean up the block surface. A lot of this discoloration is just stains. It's not any raised material. Like I said, just use a razor blade. That's the best method that I have found. Some people use like a block, sharpening stone block. Other people use like a whizzy wheel, yellow disc pad with the little fingers on it. Those are all, acceptable options. I've found for the best results to just use a razor blade and just be real gentle, stay nice and easy, nice flat, and just clean it up real good just like that. We got both sides prepped up. WD-40 helps to keep you from scraping the block surface with the razor blade. We're going to go ahead and start getting ready to set the cam in, and then we're going to get these holes cleaned out for any oil for the studs, and then we're going to start getting some heads on here. So super excited. Let's get this done. So here is our stage 2 cam from River City Diesel. We have a little bit of oil residue. They send the cam with that to keep it from rusting out in the box. So we have to clean that off. Then we're going to prep it with some assembly lube. We're just going to smear assembly lube all over this thing. And then we have to line up our dots with the cam gear to the rear crank gear so that everything is in time. And then we can get our adapter piece, our crank adapter piece, which is laying right over there. We got the bolts from River City Diesel, ARP bolts from them, so that we can bolt that back together. We've got a lot of torquing to go through, so I'm going to try to show you guys some of the torque specs for this stuff. So if you want to do this yourself, you guys know, and you don't have to look up these torque specs. So let's get this done. We're going to get this thing prepped up, and we're going to get it installed.
Alright, so your retainer plate, those two bolts, after you put Loctite on them, get them rained down finger tight. Now we have to torque them to 23 foot-pounds. Now that we got everything lined up correctly.
I'm gonna hit you with a light.
We're going to have to rotate the engine back over to get to the other one. Other way! One more.
Oh.
That's awkward.
Good?
A little more, you geriatric. That's good. Just like that. We're going to hit these one more time. Sometimes they will turn once they seat down a little bit.
Here, let me rotate it.
Rotate the engine back over just a hair more. Remember, you're going to want to push down.
Run the bolt off.
That's okay. We're not taking the crank balancer off. Keep going, please. A little bit more. More. We're on. Boom. We are torqued to 23 foot-pounds on those bolts. All right, so we're going to go ahead and throw our crank adapter on. Once again, I'm going to look back in the video. We're going to clean this up a little bit, obviously. The crank seal actually rides right here, so it's very important that we get this cleaned up really good. This mark here is our timing mark for orientation of this. If this doesn't go on the exact same way that it came off, you will have issues. They say Ford calls these bolts that go right here, that bolt this to the crank, they're called the no-no bolts because when the crank is machined, they machine this with it. So they say if you take it off, then it throws the crank out of balance. Our River City Diesel makes a bolt kit for this. Otherwise, we would have to actually drop the crank to be able to pull the cam out. So we're going to go ahead and get this cleaned up. The specs for the bolt kit is right here. 115 foot-pounds, ARP lube. And then obviously there's a washer that goes on here that's very important to get that we get that orientated correctly. So I'm going to get this cleaned up and keep moving forward. We are assembling our bolts here. As you can see, there's a little bit of a chamfer here. That's going to go down towards the bolt side. The bolt has a little bit of a lip, so we want to match that up with the washer. And we're going to take our assembly lube. We're going to lube each one of those washers on both sides and then lube the threads here and the surface there.
That's blown out. Wait, why you just zip them on? Dang, is that a inline 4 or 6? 4 liter?
More like a Jeep.
Yeah.
All right, so we got our rear cover on and our rear crank seal installed. These bolts torque to 18 foot-pounds, and then there's a special tool required to install the rear crank seal, which is right over here. So make sure you have that tool. Talk to your local Ford dealership. They should have that tool to install it. Usually they let people rent those out so that you can use it. One very important thing to remember before you put this in, we already installed our lifters in the front here and our little carriers. This crossover tube has to go in before you put this on. So do not forget that, or else you're going to hate yourself in the future. So we have all that set up. So now we are going to go ahead and install our front bolts here for our lifters. And then we can start moving on to getting our Hpop installed. And then we can start getting our heads on. So we're going to keep moving forward. Making a lot of progress, trying to stay warm out here. Any words of wisdom?
Always take steps forward, never backwards. Because you're wasting time, and time is money.
This here is our updated STC fitting for the 05, late 04 to 07 trucks. This is the updated one. This is the one that doesn't blow out, which is actually pretty common. It'll actually blow out, hit your rear cover, and actually crack it in some cases. The part number here for you guys that need to update it. There you go. This is going to have all your seals that you need to do this fitting, including the Hpop cover gasket that goes along here. Go ahead and get our seals out for this. Got our big yellow one there. We're going to put some oil on that, obviously. And then we should have our black one for our crossover tube. It goes right there. So those are our two new seals in there. And then the rest of this is actually for the Hpop. So let's go over to the Hpop. We're going to get that bad boy sealed back up. Yeah, kill it. So we're going to leave off here for tonight. We have our Hpop in, our Hpop cover on, looking good. IPR valve back in. Obviously we changed our top seal there, or I mean our top oil rail plug there. We are going to
work on putting the heads on and torquing those down tomorrow. We have to clean out each one of the bolt holes with air, compressed air, so that we get a correct torque reading, get the ARP lube working as well, and then, yeah. So we're moving right along here. Everything looking clean, everything looking good. Jets Pizza going on. Got our updated STC fitting on the Hpop. And basically it's just a 1-inch to pull off the old one, and then you thread the new one in, you get it lined up. There's a special alignment tool that comes in the kit. Over here, this little piece here, so you use this to align it correctly, and then you'll be able to install it with the new bolts that it comes with in the kit. So we're gonna leave it off here. I'm gonna continue this video tomorrow when we get the heads installed. All right, so it's the next morning out here, guys. We are in the process of cleaning out all of the bolt holes. We just use compressed air to blow out all of these bolt holes that are now going to be for the studs to go down. It's very important that you get those completely clean, so that way you make sure that you get a accurate torque reading. Otherwise, you can hydrolock inside the hole there. So very important that you get those cleaned out. And then we have our dowels, as you can see there. And now we are going to go ahead and thread our studs in. It wouldn't be a bad idea to run a tap down each one of these thread holes, just to make sure that they're not gummed up or anything like that. So we're going to go ahead and start threading in these studs, and then hopefully get the head gasket and heads on, and start doing some torquing. So let's get it. All right, guys, so we are getting the head studs installed. Huge shout out to TNA Diesel out of Marshall, Michigan for the hookup on the studs, as well as many of these other parts like the River City diesel cam and high rev valve springs. Huge shout out to these guys. They are helping out sponsor a little bit on this build, so I have to give a huge shout out to those guys. They deal with a lot of companies out there, so they can pretty much get any part that you need for your truck. So give them a shout if you guys need any of your parts. Great group of guys out there. So I'm gonna leave their shop info down below. You guys can give them a call. So huge shout out to TNA Diesel. Thank you guys for the hookup. So we're getting these studs installed. What ARP recommends is that you thread these all the way down, just finger tight. What I like to do is run them down with this. You don't have to torque them down or anything, but get them down so they're tight with that. And then what I'll do is actually back it off about 1/4 of a turn. And basically what this is going to do is this is going to allow space inside of the stud hole for these to turn as we're torquing them. I have seen on a few trucks where if you do not back it off just 1/4 of a turn, it's not much. If you just back it off a little bit, if you don't do that, what can actually happen is this stud will try to turn while you're torquing them to 210 foot-pounds. It'll turn inside and then pierce the water jacket, and then you'll just have all sorts of issues because you won't really know until after the fact. So just back them off 1/4 of a turn. That's going to ensure that we don't pierce anything and that they have a little bit of wiggle room in there to torque these down. So we're going to get these all situated, and then we're going to go ahead and get our head gasket on, unwrap our heads, and set those bad boys on. Alright, so we're in the process of putting our head gaskets on here. Part number from Felpro for 18mm head gaskets. There you go, guys. I believe you can get these from Summit Racing for like 50 bucks. They're pretty affordable compared to the Ford head gaskets. They don't come with standpipes like the Ford ones do or anything like that. They don't come with new dowel pins, but we had dowel pins anyway. Felpro is a really good option versus Ford OEM, and then you have Victor Reens. I prefer Felpro. They are a little bit thicker of a gasket, and then the actual gasket material is this black RTV versus the blue RTV that Ford uses. There's a lot of discrepancies, you know, on what people prefer. I've had really good luck with Felpro. I've ran these on multiple different trucks that I've studded and never had issues. So these are what we're going to be going with. So you can see the part number here. This is going to reference that this is the front side of the head gasket. So let's go ahead and get this installed.
What we do here is go back.
Alright, so we're getting ready to torque down our heads. We put our ARP Ultra Torque Lube on the washers and the nuts of the studs. We're going to be torquing down. Like I said, we want to keep these rocker arms. These are just kind of finger tight right now, so we're just going to leave them like that for now. And then we're going to torque those afterwards. This is going to torque down the rocker box and the head to the block surface. So We got our torque sequence up there. ARP recommends in do three different sequences, starting with 70, 140, and then a final torque of 210. So let's get to it. Ooh. This driver's side head is completely torqued down. He's working on the passenger side head. We did a final torque of 210 foot-pounds on the studs. And then these bolts up here, following the torque sequence, those torque to 23 foot-pounds. And then our rocker arms here, each one of those, I torqued those to 27 foot-pounds. Pretty much mostly everything underneath the valve cover, 27 foot-pounds. That includes injector hold-downs, rocker arms, the two bolts up there that we have to torque. So pretty much everything. We got our glow plugs in, those torque to 10 foot-pounds. So we got those in as well. At this point, we're just waiting for injectors, our turbo setup, our exhaust manifolds. We're going to be going with ported BD exhaust manifolds. And then our turbo setup is going to have the up pipes. And then it's going to sit right here. The pedestal for the turbo. We're going to be running a 369 250 100 hybrid injectors from Warren. So should be sitting right around 700 horsepower with this setup, guys. It's gonna be awesome.
So that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. We got a lot of work done, a lot of progress on the race engine. Getting the heads torqued down, getting the stage 2 cam put in and everything, the new lifters, the heads being back on. So super, super pumped, and I hope you guys are just as pumped as I am. I'm going to have to sit here and hold this engine for this guy over here. He's just finishing up the final torque on those over there. At this point, guys, we are waiting for injectors, the turbo setup, manifolds. So the next video, more than likely, we're going to be putting the front end of the truck, the race truck, together. We need to start doing some measurements and figuring out what we want to do for the oil cooler setup. This spot right here, that's initially where your oil cooler sits with your oil filter and fuel filter. That's all being deleted. All of that's going to be that's going to be gone. So Bulletproof Diesel makes a block off plate. We're going to be running a custom filter and cooler setup on the race truck. So super excited, super pumped. It's getting close. You know, we're gonna have to dump some money here soon. We got the trans build, obviously, that needs to come up soon. So a lot of action, guys. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button if you guys are new. We got a ton of action coming your guys' way. Like this video, of course, and leave a comment down below if you guys have any questions, concerns, or anything about, you know, details of the race engine build. Leave your comments down below, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace.